The first thing they took from me was the sound of my own breathing. When the containment field closed around me, even the air seemed to thicken, heavy with static, buzzing faintly against my ears. I had been disarmed, stripped of my armor, and shoved into a dome of invisible energy that glimmered faintly when I moved. The light in the alien chamber pulsed like a heartbeat, bright and dim in rhythm with some unseen power source. I was alone, weaponless, and staring at what looked like an army of living shadows. They weren't shadows, of course. They were the Zari, a species so ancient the Confederation archives barely contained more than a paragraph about them. They were warriors, towering mantis-like figures with chitin that shimmered in metallic hues and eyes that glowed from within like dying suns. Every one of them carried a spear taller than me, tipped with something that could cleave through starship hulls. And at the center of their semicircle, upon a throne that seemed carved out of liquid obsidian, sat their queen. Her name, as I would learn later, was Queen Sharvala, though when I first saw her I didn't think queen. I thought force of nature. Her eyes were pools of bioluminescent silver, and her voice, when it came, was not a sound so much as a vibration that resonated in my bones. "You are the human who entered our hunting grounds," she said. "You carry no weapon. You claim no fleet. Explain your trespass." I wanted to tell her the truth. I wanted to explain that my ship had been torn out of slipspace during an ambush, that I'd barely survived the crash on their barren moon. But looking into those eyes, I knew words weren't enough. These creatures didn't respond to pity. They respected only power. And I had none. The beginning, a broken arrival. 3 days earlier, I'd been aboard the Argent Dawn, a reconnaissance vessel assigned to the Perseus frontier. My orders were simple: chart possible warp corridors beyond Sector V-19. What we didn't know was that someone or something was waiting there. It started with a gravitational spike. Then the alarm screamed. A massive energy web wrapped around the ship, tearing at its engines like a spider claiming its prey. The hull ruptured. Decompression alarms drowned out the captain's orders. I remember seeing fire in zero gravity, tongues of orange and white folding in slow motion, before my escape pod launched automatically. I woke up half buried in gray dust. The pod was half melted, my comms array destroyed, and the sky above me churned with pale lightning that never reached the ground. I had no weapon, no rations, and only the emergency oxygen unit strapped to my back. The planet was dead, yet alive in a way that made the air vibrate. It didn't take long to realize I wasn't alone. From the cliffs came the Watchers, thin silhouettes moving too smoothly to be human. Their eyes glowed. Their movements were precise. I ran, stumbled, and fell into what I thought was a natural cavern. It wasn't. It was an entrance. And that's how I fell into the underworld of the Zari. The first encounter. They captured me instantly. There was no fight, only paralysis as they surrounded me. The air shimmered with their cloaking field, and then they were there, 15-foot-tall insectoid beings that moved with terrifying elegance. Their mandibles clicked softly, not in speech but in what I realized was laughter. When they dragged me into their subterranean city, I thought I'd been brought to a slaughterhouse. Instead, I found myself in a hall so vast it defied architecture, its walls carved into spirals that glowed faintly blue, its air heavy with a scent like ozone and iron. I could feel energy running through the floor, pulsing beneath my boots. Their queen awaited me. When she spoke, I expected to die. But instead, she studied me, her head tilting with emotion almost human, though her face remained unreadable. Around her stood hundreds of Zari soldiers, their spears crackling faintly with energy. "You are not one of the Sirith," she said, her words echoing through my skull without passing her mandibles. "You are soft. Yet you walked through our hunting lands unburned. Explain. I told her about the crash. I told her I had no ship, no army, and no intention of invading her domain. I thought honesty might spare me. Didn't. A lie, one of her guards hissed. He carries the scent of iron, of machines. He is a harbinger. Before I could speak, they activated the containment field and sealed me inside it. And thus began the longest interrogation of my life. The middle, the language of power. For hours, maybe days, they questioned me. I lost all sense of time inside that shimmering dome. I told them everything I could, but every answer only made them more suspicious. They believed humanity was allied with their ancient enemies, the Sirith Dominion, an empire of artificial intelligences that had once enslaved the Zari millennia ago. They thought I was a spy, vanguard, a weapon disguised as a man. But when I refused to fight back, something changed. The Queen stopped the interrogations. She began to watch me more closely, not as prey, but as an anomaly. I could feel her mind brushing against mine, searching, probing, analyzing the structure of my thoughts. "You are different," she murmured. "Your heart speaks in patterns I do not understand." She ordered that I be released from the field but remain under guard. I expected execution. Instead, she invited me to walk with her. And that's when I saw the truth of their world. The Zari were dying. Their city, though magnificent, was crumbling. Energy conduits flickered. The air recyclers groaned. The walls were etched with cracks that glowed faintly, like scars on living tissue. Their sun had been devoured long ago by a quantum singularity, leaving this moon as their final refuge. They survived by drawing energy from geothermal veins, but the planet was cooling. Soon it would all end. "We fought the Sirith," the Queen told me, her voice reverberating through the vast tunnels. "They came with machines that burned worlds. We shattered them, but in victory we lost everything. Now even our strength fades." I realized then why she was fascinated by me. Humans were new to this frontier. We were explorers, survivors, beings that rebuilt from nothing. To her, I was a mystery, a fragile creature that refused to die even when stripped of everything. That night, I sat in silence beside the Queen's throne, while her warriors debated whether to kill me or study me further. I knew one wrong word could end me. But I also knew something else, something her warriors didn't. The geothermal grid beneath the city was collapsing. The faint hum under my boots had changed pitch. I'd worked with reactors before. I recognized the sound of a system going critical. If it failed, the entire city would implode in a cascade of plasma. I looked at her and said quietly, "Your heart, the power beneath us, it's dying." Her eyes widened for the first time. The turning point, the heart of the world. When I explained what I knew of energy regulation, she dismissed it as human arrogance. But when the first tremors hit, she ordered her guards to escort me to the core chamber, a place no outsider had ever seen. It was breathtaking. A vast sphere suspended over an abyss, threads of molten light weaving upward like veins of fire. But it was unstable. The containment pylons flickered, one by one, failing like dying stars. The heat was unbearable. The Queen's engineers, insectoid savants with limbs like sculpted crystal, clicked desperately in their native tongue as they tried to stabilize the system. "The core bleeds," one cried. "We have hours." The Queen turned to me. "Human, you said you understand such things. Prove it." I hesitated. I had no tools, no suit, nothing but instinct. But this was a reactor, no matter how alien. Principles were universal. I climbed the access platform, my hands burning from the heat, and began tracing the energy conduits. Their technology wasn't mechanical, it was biological, living circuitry pulsing like arteries. The stabilizers had lost sync with the core's rhythm. It was like a heart beating out of time. I improvised. I found a conductor, a spear from one of the guards, and used its energy tip to reroute a feedback loop manually. The moment it touched the conduit, the core pulsed violently, nearly throwing me off the platform. The Queen's warriors shouted, ready to kill me if it failed. But it didn't fail. The pulse steadied. The hum deepened into a steady vibration. The city's lights returned, brighter than before. When I stumbled down, exhausted and half-blind from the glare, every warrior in the chamber was silent. The Queen approached, slow, deliberate, and lowered her head. Without weapon, without armor, you faced our heart's death and won. For a moment, her gaze softened. And then the alarm sounded again. The invasion. The Sirith had returned. From the surface came the tremors of impact, metallic, resonant like the footsteps of gods. The Zari communications array flared to life with static-laced warnings. The enemy fleet had found them. Drones, sleek, mechanical predators, began descending through the atmosphere, tearing through the outer caverns. The Queen looked at me. We are not ready. You repaired the heart, but our blades cannot pierce theirs. I knew the Sirith. Humanity had encountered their scouts before, ruthless AIs that consumed data and matter alike. They saw biology as inefficiency. If they found the Zari here, they wouldn't stop until every trace of life was erased. The Queen rallied her warriors. The entire cavern became a war zone of light and metal. Spears crackled. Energy bolts filled the air. The sound was deafening, like thunder tearing through steel. I stood among them, weaponless once again, watching, listening. And then, in the chaos, I saw something none of them did. The Sirith drones weren't targeting the warriors. They were heading straight for the core chamber, the power source I'd just stabilized. If they destroyed it, the moon would shatter. Ran. The Queen shouted something behind me. I think she ordered her guards to stop me, but I didn't care. I reached the chamber as the first drone breached the ceiling, its limbs slicing through stone like paper. Fixed on me instantly, scanning, calculating. I had no weapon. Just the broken spear I'd used before. So I did the only thing I could. I plunged the spear's energy tip into the control conduit and drew its power into myself. The pain was indescribable. Energy surged through my body, tearing at every nerve, every cell. But in that agony, I became part of the core, connected to the entire network of living circuitry that powered the city. The drone fired. The beam struck me and passed through. The energy redirected, amplified by the core's resonance, and rebounded in a burst of plasma that vaporized the drone instantly. One by one, the others arrived, and one by one, the core's energy flared through me, turning their weapons back upon them. The Queen arrived in time to see the last drone fall, its chassis melting into silver slag. And there I stood, burned, shaking, barely alive, at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the wreckage of alien war machines. My veins still glowed faintly blue with the core's energy. I expected to die. But instead I heard the Queen's voice again, not in my mind this time, but out loud, soft and raw. You faced our enemies without a weapon, she said. And their Queen could only stare in shock. Her warriors lowered their spears. Not in threat, but in reverence. The ending, the gift of the Queen. They nursed me back to health. The core's energy had left its mark, faint lines of bioluminescence tracing along my skin. The Queen told me the Zari believed I had become something between species. Not quite human, not quite one of them. A bridge. When the Sirith fleet finally withdrew, their losses inexplicable, The queen summoned me to her throne one last time. You carry no weapon, she said. Yet you are the sharpest blade we have ever known. She stepped closer, lowering one of her claws until it brushed the glowing line on my arm. We will rebuild. Because of you. But you cannot remain. Your kind will seek you. She gave me a vessel, small, sleek, crafted from their own living alloy. It responded to my thoughts, shaped itself to my hands. Before I left, she touched her forehead to mine, a gesture of respect among her kind. When the stars burn cold, she whispered, and your people forget your name, the Zari will remember the human who faced us without a weapon. I left their moon, rising through the storm-racked sky until the surface vanished beneath clouds of silver lightning. My ship's systems hummed with alien life. I didn't know where I was going, only that something in me had changed forever. As I crossed the void back toward human space, I looked at my reflection in the viewport. My eyes glowed faintly blue, and I remembered her final words. Power is not in the weapon you carry. It is in the will that refuses to break.